my pickup, I know I haven't done a video specifically doing anything to my pickup in a little while, but that is because I've been trying to hold off on doing things to this until I actually start ripping it apart, because as some of you know, I will be tearing this entire truck completely down to absolute bare frame. So I've been kind of putting things off, but particularly time to do this because this noise, I don't know if you could hear that, but that is getting incredibly annoying. My passenger side exhaust manifold gasket is leaking, and I can't stand it anymore. I hate when exhaust is leaking. I hate the sound of it, and I try to keep this thing as nice as I possibly can, even though, like I said, I've been trying to put some stuff off until I rebuild it. But today we will work on getting the harder side of the two exhaust manifold gaskets off. So headed to work now so I can get my toolbox, and I will see you all there. Alright, now finally in the shop. So I say this is the harder of the two sides because the passenger side exhaust manifold on these 6.5s are considerably bigger than the driver's side. Also, the turbo is on the passenger side as well, so you gotta deal with that amount of weight, and you've got to get the downpipe off the turbo out of the way to access the rear port or number 8 cylinder on exhaust manifold bolts. So we will start by getting this tire out of the way. We'll get the inner fender liner off, we'll get the intake off, and then we will start getting at the exhaust manifold once we get the exhaust completely unbolted. So let's get at it. Alright, so we got the 14 bolts and the one nut out of the inner fender. So those are pretty self-explanatory how to take out. It's just take those bolts out, take that one nut off, get your intake out of the way, and that will open up all of this fun stuff, and it'll make it real easy in order to get at what you want to. You can do the same on the driver's side, just get that inner fender well right out of the way, and it opens up a bunch. So now that we have it out of the way, we got to undo the downpipe off the turbo, and you can see how it gets right in the way of the manifold back here. You can access those two bolts, those two bolts, those two bolts, but that fourth leg right there, you cannot access with that downpipe in the way. So we will get the downpipe up out of the way. I'll probably wind up disconnecting the entire exhaust from the hangers just so I can get this slid back and just completely out of the way. I'm gonna try not to fool with the donut gaskets for the crossover, but if need be, I have another donut gasket. That's no big deal. It will definitely make your life easier in order to do this job if you undo the crossover. I'm going to try not to fool with it this time. You can see my exhaust manifold is wrapped. That just keeps the heat. Like I can touch the manifold, and I just drove it here. It's super hot. It makes handling the manifolds a little easier, keeps the heat off, all of unnecessary things where it doesn't need to be. So yeah, we'll get this downpipe off and keep on plugging away at her. Alright, we got the downpipe out of the way. You can see where it connects to the turbo. Now we can access those two bolts, those two bolts, those two right there, and the ones behind. And then all you gotta do is just kind of teeter that exhaust manifold back a little bit, and you'll be able to take the old gasket out, and we'll get started on that. You can see right here, I don't have all of the bolts out for the manifold just yet, but this is the back one on number 8 cylinder, and you can see that this is just completely covered in carbon. There's my issue. I had a feeling it was all the way in the back. The reason why I said I have extra donut gaskets is because I've replaced the donut gaskets once before thinking it was it, and to my dismay, it wasn't. So, exhaust manifold gaskets it is. So, let's keep rolling. Alright, now that you've got your exhaust manifold pulled away from the head, you're going to want to take some sandpaper and just clean up the mating surfaces on the exhaust manifold and the head itself. This will get rid of any and all gasket material that was left after taking out your exhaust manifold gasket. And then you can try to finagle the new one in. It's, again, best to do this with two people. That way you have some person or one person up top kind of positioning the exhaust manifold and the turbo in place. And then you can be down here starting the bolts. But yeah, let's clean up mating surfaces. I know, so this is kind of like a weird install video and stuff like that because you guys are mostly looking at my back and it's hard to get a good camera angle in here. But after you get the, let's see, after you get the exhaust manifold, which is right here underneath the turbo, pulled back enough you can kind of get your fingers in there with some sandpaper and clean in behind. the manifold gas, in behind the manifold itself and the head, and you can just clean up inside there. And then you're gonna finagle that gasket in place, and then you're gonna line up the holes for the manifold. I typically get the very bottom front one, and then one of these two back ones. It's probably easier to do this back one right here, and you can see that I got the gasket up into place right there. So all that's left is to tighten these 8 bolts back up and button everything up there. I forgot to show you that, you know, you're gonna want to take the turbo and disconnect it from the intake horn and get the CDR tube unbolted from the turbo itself as well. Just makes pulling the turbo and manifold away from the head possible. So yeah, bolt this all back up and do another time lapse. Alright, now that the truck is all back together, I didn't film putting it back together just because if you can take it apart, then you should be able to put it back together. Again, if you have a hard time remembering where things go, take a photo, try to remember as best you can, or watch a video on how to tear it apart, and then you should be able to put it back the way you found it. Let's get this thing on test drive and see if that annoying ticking has gone away. probably imagine that definitely took care of that little ticking exhaust escaping the manifold sound. So my exhaust is back to being as loud as it should be. Yeah, just a little exhaust leak sounds like that just irritate the piss out of me. So I hope this video was helpful to the new guys getting into this. It's one of those maintenance things. It's a gasket and it's going to wear out at some point, and I wanted to show you that you don't have to necessarily remove the whole manifold. And luckily for you and unluckily for me, it was the more difficult side to get to because there's just more in the way. But if you're working on the driver's side, it's the same process. It's just a lot easier because there isn't as much in the way. By all means, if you feel the need to remove the manifolds in order to, like, completely remove the manifolds in order to replace the gasket, by all means do whatever is more comfortable for you, especially if you're new. If it may be more beneficial to you to figure out, you know, how just everything goes together. You can get a better view on something like that, but you don't necessarily have to in order to do this job. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Again, I hope this was helpful to you. Let me know about your leaky exhausts. You know, what have you run into? How did you fix it? Did you just let it go? Something like that. Let me know in the comments below. If there's any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comment section below. I love talking to you guys, and I know the majority of things that I do may not, you know, be the way that you would do it, but yeah, you know, helping the community is the way I do things. So thank you all so much again. If you're interested in more indirect injection content, such as, you know, the stuff I do on this channel, please consider subscribing, liking the video. Go check out IDI Legends on Instagram and Facebook. I will leave all the links in the description below. If you feel like you want to get a hold of me personally, I'll also leave those links in the description below. But thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you, Legends, in the next one.